All right, welcome back and let's get started. These lamb sliders are all about taste, and you're gonna have to make an awesome sauce that just kind of helps bind the whole thing together, and that is tzatziki. It comes from the Mediterranean world. We're gonna stick with Mediterranean flavors, and it's really simplistic, but it packs that bold flavor. And so let's get started. Easiest thing, grab some Greek yogurt, spoon it into a bowl. You might want to make some more of this since you're already making it. It's not really hard to make more. But we're going to just go ahead and start with about 1.5 cups. And just like that, just take the yogurt, fresh and easy. Now, these flavors, za'atar, turmeric, granulated garlic, they add a lot of boldness to the dish. And then you have this sweet bun of brioche. And when you put them all together and you add a little bit of sambal, it's just like this nice punch. And so that's really what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to get some freshness, some depth, some heat, some spice, and really kind of create some umami. So after you get that yogurt in the bowl, we're going to go ahead and crush up some garlic. And so if you can do a fine dice with a knife, I recommend doing that. If not, use a garlic press. And we're going to go ahead and get 2 pieces in there. So again, fine dice. No look, hey ma, what's up? I'm just kidding, but here we go. And what's really cool about this dish, so when I started my food truck, we did a brand new menu every day. And before we kind of got on the map, we did this lamb dish between me and my old business partner. And it was the first thing we actually cooked together with my dad, which is, we go way back. And when we decided to reinvent it, we put it on the food truck. And we actually sold a lot of them. It was like one of our most popular items. And we got our first food critic. And he came and he said, "This is the best lamb sandwich I've ever had, but $7 is too expensive." So then the next day, sure enough, we went back on the truck and we named it Gustavo's $9 lamb sandwich just to give him a little tingle. And he actually loved it and he became good friends with us after. But it's a pretty amazing dish and it's pretty simplistic. And it goes back to our roots. So after you get the 2 pieces of garlic nice and diced up, get that into your yogurt. We're gonna go for the fresh herbs. So I like to use dill and mint. These are like pretty classic. You just wanna grab the dill, take it off the main stalk. We're gonna go ahead and dice up all of these chiffonade, if we wanna get technical, all of these herbs, which just really means roll it up and dice it real nice to create some freshness in the dish. So once you get that dill going, you just want a little handful. You're gonna roll it up real nice and tight. And you're going to do the same thing, just try to chop it really fine. Man, I love the fresh smell of dill. And after you chop that real fine, you're going to add it right back to the bowl. And don't worry about putting too much or too little herbs in here. You can always switch it up. You can add different stuff. If you don't have mint, you can have just dill. If you don't have dill, just mint. I think the mint's kind of essential for it. It's just really classic, so I would recommend at least getting that in there. And then we're just going to take the mint leaves off. By the way, if you haven't started growing fresh herbs at your house, it's the easiest thing, and it's just like comes back every season, and it's pretty awesome. I have a plethora of fresh herbs, and it's like one of my favorite things. And you know in California, we love fresh herbs. So once you get the mint nice and rolled up, same thing. Man, I love the sound of a knife. Just going perfectly against a nice cutting board. All right, once that mint's in there, we're gonna just get some kosher salt, a little bit of olive oil, and some lemon. Now I don't normally use lemon, so this one actually calls for lemon. And what's cool about this tzatziki, the second part that I love about it is not only are we building it for the slider as the topping, we're also going to be using it as the salad dressing. And since we only have 30 minutes and you want to create this amazing meal that you're upgrading the snack into dinner time, this is pretty much the easiest way to do it. You're getting multi-use out of everything. So with the lemon, you just want to put enough in there that you're just creating flavor. I probably squeeze this about 1/3 of the way. And so once all that's together, we're just going to mix it up. And you know the rule in my kitchen, you gotta taste it, right? If it tastes good, you know it's gonna be plated vinyl good. So once that's all mixed together, we're gonna go ahead and give it a little taste, see if it needs anything. So what I taste right now, just to kind of get you like the chef perspective, is I taste the yogurt, I don't taste enough herb, and I don't taste citrus and salt. So this is a perfect time where you just want to adjust. So we want to add a little bit more salt, tiny bit more lemon, and I didn't taste enough mint, surprisingly. So this is like the fun part for me. This is like what gets me going, is you get excited when you start to understand and comprehend taste. And that way you can actually create better dishes. So once you're seeing like tasting and you're really thinking about what you're missing in the dish, it's gonna start to become more fun for you. And like that's like home cooking 101, I love it. So we'll get a little bit more mint in there. Grab a new tasting spoon, see what's up. So I've gotten garlic, I'm getting fresh herb, a little bit of citrus, salt, Greek yogurt. That is fire. So that's done. And now we go to mix our patties. So I have a little trick kind of up my sleeve with how we do our mixed patties. So typically I'm a fan of lamb, and I really, really, really love lamb. But a lot of people that I have over say, oh, it smells kind of gamey, or it's a little too much for me. And so what we've learned to do is if you cut it half-half with 80-20 meat, no one has an idea. It creates a little bit less of that smell, that gaminess that people are worried about, but it still has that lamb taste. And it ends up crushing it, so you get more people who are more willing to try it and have it and experience this great protein. And all lamb is grass-fed. It's much more sustainable. It's a really great protein for us. So the more we eat it, the better. So I'm going to grab it. So we've got our ground lamb. We've got our 80-20 ground beef. Both beautiful. And then we're gonna bind this together with an egg and just some seasoning. So tzatziki's done. Move over here. We're gonna get the ground lamb in there. So again, we're gonna go about equal parts over here. So we got our ground lamb in there. We got our ground beef. And we move over to the fun stuff. You're gonna wanna season this. So kosher salt, it's plentiful. Use a decent amount of it. Black pepper. Again, you can be pretty generous with these. Za'atar. Za'atar is Middle Eastern gold. It's there's green za'atar, there's red za'atar. You can use a couple of different ones. It is one of my favorite seasonings. It's got all these great herbs in it, a little bit of sesame, and you want to go ahead and be pretty generous with this. This adds a nice brightness, surprisingly, to like a more heavy meat. Some turmeric, classic Middle Eastern, granulated garlic. And then this is the part that's a little fun. We're gonna go ahead and use a little bit of lemon zest, which is non-traditional. Now you can use that same lemon we started with. You can grab another lemon. Since it is the Tastemade kitchen, I'm grabbing lemons all day. Now you don't want to put too much. You don't want to overpower it, but you just want to add a nice little freshness to an otherwise heavy patty. So in essence, in lemon essence, you're gonna want to go ahead and grab about half of this one. And once all that's together, you're gonna add the egg. And we're gonna go ahead and mix it up. Now, typically, I'm a fan of mixing by hand, so I'm gonna stick with what my roots are. I'm gonna get in there. I like to feel it, make sure I'm really getting everything around there. And you can go ahead and wash your hands right after. It's okay. It's safe to have ground lamb, safe to have ground meat. And that egg is there to bind it. Seasoning's there to flavor it. And it's just gonna come out perfect. Man, these are badass. We're gonna go ahead and add a little bit more. Go ahead and add equal parts still. Really working in the meat. Working in all the seasonings. All right, and once that's all mixed together, I recommend a quick wash of the hands. You are gonna use the meat right away again, so you don't need to go too deep on the wash, but just better kitchen practice. So got that out of our way. Gonna move the meat out of our way. and we're gonna form our patties. Forming patties is pretty simple. We're cooking these on the stove top on a flat top. And so because you're not actually gonna have a lot of time to cook the internal meat of them, you don't wanna go too thick. Also, we're going slider size. We're making these snacks into dinner, but we're not gonna go too big with them. So you wanna look at your patty, however big your patty is, your bread patty. So right here, we're looking about 45 grams. That's because I'm a crazy person and I know somehow grams by looking at something. But it's about this size, so you just want to really get the patty to be around the right size so that you have a good bread to meat ratio. So we're going to grab it and we're going to go kind of thin. So just squeeze it in your palm. Probably about 1.5 ounces if you need to know at home. And once you've created a patty that's not too thick, we're talking maybe about 1/3 of an inch and about the same size as the patty, we're going to go ahead and plate that. And these are pretty well binded together, so you don't need to worry about smashing or anything. The egg's going to be a really good catalyst for that. And we're going to go ahead and do 3 patties for dinner, and then we're going to set up 3 more for a midnight snack or some later time whenever you need them. They're already going to be ready to go for you. And what's cool about this ground meat too is you can use it in a lot of different ways. Not sure if you've ever had shakshuka, but staying on that Mediterranean theme, that's one of my favorite things in the world, and this ground lamb does so well in it. It's like one of the best breakfast time foods ever. Okay, so once you get all the meat pattied, we're going to do one last thing to make sure that they're perfect. And we're going to go ahead and probably have to shape it a little bit more once we put it right on that hot griddle pan. So it's one last time that you're going to work on it again, making sure that it's absolutely perfect. All right, guys. Now, I'm going to get this fire hot, but before we get to cooking and everything gets made, I'm going to take you to a quick commercial break. So welcome back. Lamb sliders, the patties are ready. We're gonna go ahead and get some butter onto our griddle pan. The griddle pan's hot. We're just gonna melt this and get this out the way so that we can create the most amazing brioche toasted buns that any man has ever seen. So just get some butter. The easiest thing for us is I'm putting it right onto the pan just because that's easy. And all you're gonna do is melt it and take it right off. So we're just gonna wait a few seconds while that happens. Now, remember when I told you that this tzatziki is awesome because it doubles for a sauce and a dressing for the salad? Well, that's what we're going to be using. We got some really nice bibs and young greens over here, and we're going to go get some veg for it. So I like to use the same ingredients and cross-utilize them. It's easier on cost. It's easier on work. And so we're going to use these Roma tomatoes on both the sliders, or these plump vine tomatoes on both the sliders and in the salad, and we're going to use the red onion the same. So we're going to start with the red onion. We're going to take off the end of it and cut right through the stem. And we are going to peel. I love red onion. It's more traditional to Mediterranean food in my opinion. It's a little sweeter and less pungent. I think it does really well on this. So we're just going to go ahead and cut the end off of it. This is where all the sulfuric acid lies. So if I start tearing up, it's not because I'm sad, just because I love onions. So we got that going, and we're gonna go ahead and give it a nice little thin dice. I like these to be super thin. We're probably not gonna use all of them, but it's good to just cut it, be done with it. Then we're gonna go straight to the tomato. We're gonna cut off the top. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing, just nice thin slices. Could use a serrated knife if that's easier for you. My knife happens to be sharpened a little. So this is going to be for the slider, and then we're going to cut a little bit more for the salad. So second one, get these out of the way. All right, and so now we have definitely enough for the sliders. We're gonna set these aside, grab a plate, And this is just to set up your mise en place, which is a fancy way of setting up your plating for the end of the meal. So once you have your tomatoes going, you got your onions ready. And that's enough, more than enough for 3 sliders. We're gonna cut for salad. So for salad, I like thicker chunks of tomato. And so we're gonna go ahead and kind of rough chop these into larger pieces. I'm not a huge fan of the core, so if you want to cut out a little bit of the core, it's not a bad idea. I like the more flavorful, soft parts of the tomato. That's a personal preference. And so we're going to cut up one more tomato, get some nice acid in that salad. And just checking on our butter over here. You can see it's fully melted. So we're going to just grab, you can use some tongs, grab that thing, and we just take it right off the heat. Now that it's melted, we don't need to use it anymore. We don't need to heat it up anymore. We do need to use it. And so, boom, melted butter. That's going to get ready for our brioche. Okay, and now we got the tomatoes cut for the salad. Tons of tomatoes. And we're going to put some of the veg right in there. So we got tomatoes, some red onion. We're going to scatter through that salad. And then we're going to plate some olives in there as well to keep that classic Mediterranean vibe. Now, za'atar, that magic gold of the Middle East spice that I was talking about earlier, we're going to go ahead and put that in this salad as well with some salt and some pepper. And that za'atar, it typically, everyone's kind of got like their own blend, but typically you've got dried mint, dried thyme, roasted sesames, some salt, sometimes sumac. And so it's really just a kind of nice flavor profile that brings a lot of freshness, a lot of herbs to it, which is pretty standard in Middle Eastern food. And so we're going to get a little bit of za'atar on top of there. Some salt. It's okay to be heavy with the salt. Some pepper. And then that same tzatziki, we're going to go ahead and get that as the dressing for the salad. So you're going to wonder how much to put. You can't put too much yogurt. If you put too much yogurt, it's going to weigh down the salad. But you can't put too little because it is a dressing. So start off with like, you saw. I mean, for a bowl this size, I did about 3 tablespoons. It's a good way to go, and you can always add more. With salads, it's always better to start with less dressing and then bring more out than to go the other way around. And so once we get that going, we're going to grab a kitchen towel, clean the cutting board. Okay, and now we'll mix it with some tongs and get that salad done. You can do this in the sink if it's easier for you. And you just really want to make sure every piece of lettuce is seasoned, dressed. And that seemed to be the right amount of the dressing. And you always know if you did the right amount of dressing if the bottom of your bowl is not covered in dressing. So a little trick real quick just to see. And so now that salad is done, we're just going to plate it with a few more olives. Make it look nice, plus who doesn't love more olives? And we can set that aside and that's ready for dinner. And we move over to the meat. Time to get the lamb going. So we've got, first step is getting the buns cut. And then we're going to move over to that grill. So serrated knife, brioche buns. I love brioche for sliders. There's a certain amount of sweetness in the bun itself that just creates a really nice element. And so you want to go ahead and just slice those. We're going to make 3 of these, taking a snack, making it more of a meal. And so once you've got those open, we're going to grab a brush, grab that butter, and make sure to get it all over. And the reason why you melt the butter is just to better coat the bun. So, you know when you ever have that perfect grilled cheese and you always wonder kind of how they get the bread so awesome? Sadly, it's butter. And that is the trick to making sure that you have really great toasted buns. And so we've got these buns toasted all nice. Or buttered all nice, about to be toasted all nice. And once that's going, we can get the meat set up. So the meat's going to take the longest out of everything that you need to put down. It's probably going to only take about 4 or 5 minutes. So you just want to make sure to put that down first. The buns are only going to take about 2. And so I think we're going to actually want to go ahead and set up the pan a little bit with some grapeseed oil. And the reason why you want to use grapeseed oil is to have a low smoking point. So the fact that it's smoking right now, you know your grill's just a little bit hot. And so we're just going to lower it a little. It's a nice pan. So we lower it a little bit. And this is a good trick too. So, oh, you know what? This is olive oil. Okay, there we go. Daniel, you're awesome. So the reason why we're seeing smoke is because it's olive oil. So this is a simple fix. We're going to go ahead and grab this kitchen towel. We're going to wipe it down. Easy enough. See, it all makes sense, right? The grapeseed oil shouldn't have burned at that heat, and now we figured it out. It's like Sherlock in this kitchen. So now we got the grapeseed oil, this beautiful oil. We're going to put it there, and we're going to see if it's still smoking. So once the heat's a little bit lower, all right, and that's perfect. So that's going on there, and it's not really smoking all that much. That's just the residue of olive oil. So we're going to take a spat, get that in there. And this is really just seasoning our grill so that we have a better cook. Now you don't want the pan too cool because you do want a nice sear on the meat. That's what tastes so good. So you want to make sure that you have a nice, decent amount of heat on there. So this is pretty good. And I'm thinking it's about medium heat, about 325, 350 if you're at home and wondering what temperature to put it on. So now that it's all good, we're going to get those patties there. And so remember what I said, you're probably going to want to do one last form as you pull it off. So just make sure it's that shape that you like. Oh, that's perfect. You hear that nice sizzle. And so we're just going to cook 3 for now. That way we have the perfect amount per sliders. Now, that egg ratio is really perfect for binding this. So the reason why I added a little bit more meat in that earlier part was just because the binding, well, the egg ratio is a little too wet. And when you go to cook it, it's not going to taste proper. It's not going to cook properly. So you really want to make sure that the texture of the meat is still firm, but a little bit covered in feeling like of the egg, of the liquid. So it's moist, but not dry and not overly wet. Because if it's overly wet, it won't cook properly. And so that's this mixture right here. It's binded, but there isn't any really residue left on the parchment paper. So you know you did a pretty good job of putting it together. And so we're going to hit it with just a little bit more salt while it's on the grill, on the pan. And so you're going to it's about 5 minutes in total. So you're going to go about 2.5 minutes. You do really want these maximum medium. If it's preference at home, but I would say go towards medium rare. And so we're going to go ahead and toast the buns now that they're on there. Smells so good. I wish you had smell-o-vision at home. This is bomb. And so, as we're plating, we're always cleaning. Kitchen Rules 101. Now, what else is there to know about me? So, I started my food truck 10 years ago. It was crazy. I had no culinary experience. We got our first truck. We didn't even know how to turn on the propane. It was like the craziest day. We called the truck owner and we're like, hey, how do we get this grill on? And he goes, hey man, did you guys get propane? And we're like, oh, wow. So fast forward, that was like 10 years ago. And then that year we actually decided to do a brand new menu every day. So we would get in this ingredients and we would basically put a menu together that day. And whenever we sold out of it, we sold out of it. And it was crazy because it really was like just a million different things that we were making on the truck. And people got FOMO because if you came in for like the beef tongue and you didn't get it that one day, you'll never be able to have it again. And it's kind of crazy because there's only a few items that we would have reoccurring on the menu, and this is one of them. But it also taught us to become really creative and become really adaptable because these food trucks are so crazy. So it's kind of like a fun story of how the food truck started and like how far we've come along while we've been doing it. And I just want you to get to know me a little bit better while we're cooking away, while we're waiting for these beautiful lamb sliders to finish. And so now we got a nice sear. If we look back at there, you can see that it's cooked on one side, so you're going to want to go ahead and flip it. And you're looking for that nice brown on there. Oh, that's perfect. We're just gonna hit it with a tiny bit more salt. Make sure we get both sides evenly. And you can check on your buns to see if they're toasted. So right there, we got a nice outer toasting, but it still has a little bit of work to do. And so they should be plating around the same time. Now, lamb has a very special place in my heart. I mentioned earlier how sustainable it is. All lamb is grass-fed. If you want to impress your friends and say, hey, oh, that's grass-fed lamb, it's always going to be true. And it's also one of the most delicious meats. It's super healthy for you, and it really does taste good. And I think people who are a little bit scared of like that gaminess, it's just because they haven't had it really, or they haven't been exposed enough to it. So I say venture, be bold. Life is about being bold, making new flavors. I was just in China and I ate some of the weirdest things I've ever eaten in my life, and it was kind of scary, but it was also fun. And like, what happened after? Either it tasted good or it didn't, and I moved on and I had a story to tell. So I feel like be bold in your kitchen, and that's what I'm like when I talk about spices. That's what I'm like when I think about proteins, and that's what I'm like in my restaurants. And that's what this lamb's all about. And if you can pair it well with good flavors, it's totally solid. So looking at that bun, that's that perfect, nice grill. It's got a nice toast on the outside. It's a little crispy, and so those are good to go. This guy's still got a second to go. That guy's perfect. Still got a second to go. Perfect. And we're just gonna wait for these last guys to finish. Get ready for plating. Now, Sambal Oelek. This is my favorite stuff in the world. It's garlic chili paste. You can make it from scratch, or you can buy this exact one. It's the best one that you can buy in stores. It does not have dried shrimp, which I think some of the OGs will get mad at me for not liking sambal with dried shrimp, but I think it tastes better without. And this is like that classic, and I use it some ways in different items in our food. We use it like a lime butter sauce for chicken wings. That's incredible. We're going to be using it on these sliders because it cuts through that Greek yogurt and through some of that gaminess of the meat, but it's also just so flavorful and adds some depth to the dish. And so this stuff's the jam. If you don't have it, this is like standard 101 Daniel Kitchen. All right. So buns are done. And now we're going to check the meat. So that's still a little bit rare. That's about medium. That's about done. We're gonna wait for this little thicker one to just kind of finish out. Now, the fun part, plating. So while we wait for this last one to finish, we're gonna just go ahead and final plate these. So you're gonna get some tzatziki on the bottom of each bun. Then we're gonna go ahead and get the patty on there. You can go ahead and press that down if it helps. Get this last guy. Nice. And it's okay for them to spill over a little bit. You want a lot of that sauce. And then we're going to go ahead and plate the tomato. I think one's perfect. The red onion has a nice little bite. And then we're going to grab the sambal, and we're going to give it... Now, depending on spice, how much you like, obviously put as much as you can handle. I would say like a teaspoon, a half teaspoon if you get the top part of the bun. Oh man, I'm so excited. My mouth's watering over here. It smells so good. All right. And then once you get those bad boys set up, we're going to go grab our plate to put the final plating on this bad boy. And it's always good to plate on the cutting board so you look more professional when you add it to the plate because it'll be a little cleaner. And so here we got our plate. All right. My mouth is watering. We're going to grab our salad. I feel like this is no snack, man. This is the solid move right here. Hope you guys at home are enjoying this. Okay, and so we've got our plated dish, and it looks perfect. You got your 3 slider buns. You got your perfectly made tzatziki salad. Individually, this would be a snack, but together, this is a pretty amazing meal.